Wolfenstein 3D is credited with starting the first-person shooter genre. In 2001, Return to Castle Wolfenstein introduced the series to a new generation of players. And now, we have Wolfenstein, the latest shooter in the franchise. The newest Wolfenstein feels practically ancient in some ways compared to most modern shooters. Its technology is behind the times, the artificial intelligence is not very smart, and there are all sorts of little things that could have used some refinement. But you know, Wolfenstein can be a lot of fun. It's got some cool set-piece battles and fantastic boss fights, and the single-player campaign is surprisingly long.
Alright, let's go!
And then there's the multiplayer, which returns to the old Return to Castle Wolfenstein formula, just as fans would expect. So if you just want some pure throwaway fun and don't mind some noticeable flaws, you'll enjoy BJ Blazkowicz's latest journey into the supernatural side of World War II. As for the story, well, Return to Castle Wolfenstein's story was hardly a classic, and nothing much has changed in that regard. Playing as BJ, you join a resistance group seeking to stop the Nazis from harnessing the power of a supernatural phenomenon called the Black Sun. It's a whole bunch of B-movie silliness told by some mediocre-looking cutscenes both in and out of the game engine. What's important to know here is that you'll fight regular soldiers along with some more supernatural meanies. But you've got an otherworldly trick of your own called the Veil. Using Veil powers, you can slow down time, conjure a shield, and improve your attack skills to do more damage and even shoot through force fields. And as you earn money from completing missions and finding money bags scattered around, you can upgrade these powers in RPG-like fashion. These abilities feel somewhat contrived, and they've appeared in other games. More annoyingly, the visual effects that occur when entering the Veil can cause the frame rate to take a hit. Not exactly a desirable event in a fast-paced shooter. But you'll still make good use of the powers. Your enemies aren't smart. They'll ignore grenades and often won't react when someone standing right next to them gets shot. But they are tough and will do a lot of damage. So you'll need to use the Veil often, and use your limited Veil energy reserves wisely. Wolfenstein is a challenge, but sometimes it does get cheap. One type of enemy can appear almost out of nowhere and kill you in a single hit, and you'll turn a few corners only to have a rocket slam into you and cause instant death. This sort of thing isn't fun, but luckily, most of the time the challenge is legitimate, and you'll need to enter the Veil often to counter it. The bosses are the most challenging parts of Wolfenstein, but they're also the best parts. They require you to use the Veil in different ways and utilize your best weaponry. The boss characters are tough, they fight you in cool-looking arenas, and they're just good, old-fashioned fun. Like the Veil, weapons can also be upgraded, in this case to hold more ammo, do more damage, and so on. The shooting feels really good. Traditional weapons like the MP40 feel comfortable and are fun to shoot. But the highlights are the sci-fi editions like the Tesla gun and the particle cannon. Turning Nazis into goo is never a bad way to pass the time, after all. There are some odd quirks that can mess with the action, though. When you reload, the camera turns to the side until you're done reloading, which seems like a tiny, meaningless thing. But if you prefer to be lining up your next shot during the reload, it's a little disruptive and a change from shooter norm that serves only to be annoying without coming with any benefit. Doors can also be an issue in the way they close automatically when you're trying to shoot through doorways, or in how they get caught up on objects. If one gets really stuck, you may even have to reload a checkpoint. There are a number of little things like this you'll notice, and it's the general lack of fine-tuning that makes the difference between a good game and a great one. The online side of things marks a return of the multiplayer that made Return to Castle Wolfenstein such a hit online. Matches are class-based. You choose to be either a medic, an engineer, or a soldier, and you choose a team, either the Axis or the Resistance. Team Deathmatch is pretty much what you would expect, so you'll get the most mileage out of the stopwatch and objective modes. In these modes, one team assaults and one defends, and the assaulting team must carry out multiple objectives to win the match. The difference between the objective and stopwatch modes is that in stopwatch, each team takes turns to see who can complete the objective in the fastest time. None of this is as deep or as involved as Enemy Territory or many other multiplayer shooters that have come since. But the 8 maps are designed well, and you can unlock persistent upgrades over time, so you'll probably get some mileage out of the online play. You also get to play with Veil powers, though these aren't the same as in the single player. Each class gets a single power, so medics can heal teammates in a particular radius, soldiers can use Veil Strike to cause explosive area damage, and engineers can run real fast. There are some exciting set-piece battles and gruesome kills in Wolfenstein that will take your breath away. There are also bunches of little issues that start to add up, like frequent loading screens and mediocre AI. But for the most part, Wolfenstein is quite good. It's got good shooting, good level design, and good multiplayer battles. The single-player game is also quite long, clocking in at over a dozen hours if you take on some of the side missions. With more attention to detail, Wolfenstein might have even been great. But if you loved Return to Castle Wolfenstein, you'll find exactly what you were looking for here. No more and no less.